Have you ever felt your blood boil over something someone said or did, and then immediately regretted it? You're not alone. Almost everyone lets other people's words, actions, or moods control their own peace, energy, and focus. But what if you could stop that today? What if no one could disturb your calm, distract you, or steal your happiness? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. You will learn how to notice what really triggers you, how to take back control over your emotions, and how to respond in a way that keeps you steady no matter what's happening around you. These are simple, practical steps you can use in your daily life, not just theory or motivational talk. You'll discover how to stay patient, think clearly before reacting, and protect your inner peace even when people try to push your buttons. By the end, you'll understand how to remain calm, confident, and unshaken in any situation. This is the kind of mindset that changes lives and gives you freedom from anger, frustration, and unnecessary stress. This is not about being perfect. It's about being in control. Chapter 1. Start understanding triggers to stop reacting emotionally. When you want to live a calmer life and carry yourself with strength, the first thing you must do is understand what sets you off. Most people try to control their reactions in the moment, but they never take the time to understand what sparks those reactions in the first place. When you understand your triggers, you reduce the power they have over you. You start to live with intention instead of reacting without thinking. This is where real emotional control begins. Many people walk around feeling tense without knowing why. They feel bothered by small things, and they think the problem is outside them. But most of the time the problem starts inside. It starts with old habits, old stories, old fears, and old expectations that they never examined. When you slow down and start paying attention, you begin to see what truly affects your state. You notice the small changes in your body, your tone, your pace, and your focus. These signs were always there, but you never knew how to read them. Once you do, you take the first step toward being a calm and steady human being. Most anger grows from small triggers. It rarely comes out of nowhere. The mind sends signals long before the reaction shows up. You may feel your shoulders tighten, your breathing becomes shorter, your thoughts rush, your voice gets louder, your patience drops. The moment you start paying attention to these early signs, you take back control. You stop giving situations more power than they deserve. You stop letting people push you into reactions that hurt your peace. You begin to see that anger is not something that happens to you. It is something that grows inside you when you do not understand yourself. Understanding your triggers requires honesty. You must look at the moments when you lose control and ask why they affect you so strongly. You must face the truth about what you struggle with. Some people get angry when they feel disrespected. Others get angry when they feel ignored. Others get angry when their routine breaks. Others get angry when someone challenges their belief. These triggers are different for everyone, but they all come from emotional patterns that were formed by past experiences. If you do not understand them, they run your life. If you learn them, you gain the freedom to respond with strength instead of reacting with anger. One of the most powerful things a person can do is sit down and study themselves. Think about your last few reactions. Think about the moments you felt your temper rise. Think about the people who seem to bother you easily. Do not judge yourself, just observe. Your goal is not to blame yourself. Your goal is to understand yourself. When you see the patterns, you can change them. When you understand the source, you can stop the reaction before it starts. Many people try to change their behavior without changing their awareness, and that is why nothing improves. They try to stay calm while still giving their triggers full power. It does not work. You cannot control something you do not understand. Awareness is the foundation. When you understand a trigger, you do not let your emotions lead you into a place you do not want to go. Instead, you pause, you breathe, you think clearly, you respond from strength, not weakness. That pause changes everything. That pause gives you leadership over your emotions. When you understand your triggers, you also stop taking things personally. You realize that many situations are not about you. People act from their own struggles, habits, and fears. Someone may speak in a harsh tone because they feel insecure. Someone may interrupt you because they grew up around loud communication. Someone may talk about you because they feel small inside. If you do not understand your triggers, you take these actions as direct attacks. But when you understand them, you separate your emotions from the situation. You stay calm, you stay grounded, you stay in control. Understanding triggers also helps you set better boundaries. When you know what affects you, you know what to protect. You stop staying in situations that drain you. You stop engaging in conversations that bring nothing good. You stop allowing people to play with your emotional state. You learn to say no with confidence. This is not avoidance. This is responsibility. Emotional stability is not only about managing your reactions, it is also about managing your environment. When you understand your triggers, you create an environment where your mind can stay steady. A large part of emotional maturity is learning to slow down. Many people react fast because they live fast. They move through the day without a moment of space. Their mind runs like a wheel that never stops. In this state, any small trigger becomes large. You must create room inside yourself. Room to think. Room to breathe. Room to observe. That space becomes your strength. It gives you time to choose. Without space, you react instantly. With space, you respond wisely. You grow as a person when you start questioning your reactions. Ask yourself why certain words bother you. Ask yourself why certain tones affect you. Ask yourself why certain people annoy you quicker than others. You will discover that your triggers are not random. They are connected to your beliefs about yourself. When you feel insecure about something, you react strongly when someone touches that area. When you feel confident about something, nothing shakes you in that area. Understanding this creates deep personal growth. You learn where you need to build strength. You learn where you need more patience. You learn where you need healing. Most anger does not come from the situation happening right now. It comes from old memories running in the background. It comes from a comment someone made years ago. It comes from a feeling of being unheard, unseen, or unappreciated. When you understand this, you stop blaming others for your emotions. You take responsibility for what you carry inside. This is not about guilt, it is about empowerment. When you take ownership, you also take back your ability to change. Emotional control does not happen overnight. It comes from daily awareness. You get better at this by observing yourself every day. When someone says something that bothers you, notice it. When your tone changes, notice it. When your body tightens, notice it. Do not react instantly. Stay with the feeling. When you stay with the feeling, it loses its grip. It becomes something you can handle instead of something that controls you. Every day gives you a chance to practice this. Whether you are at home, at work, or with friends, you will encounter situations that test your reaction. Use those moments as training. Use them as an opportunity to practice staying calm. Use them to understand yourself better. You are building a new emotional habit, and habits grow with repetition. The more you practice, the stronger you become. Understand that emotional strength is not the absence of feelings. It is the ability to stay steady when the feeling rises. The goal is not to remove emotions. The goal is to manage them with intelligence.
When you understand your triggers, you stay in the driver's seat instead of letting your emotions take the wheel. You stop rushing into reactions that damage your peace. You start responding with clarity, confidence, and maturity. When you master this first step, you move into a new level of self-respect. You stop giving your power away to people who do not deserve it. You stop allowing small situations to ruin your entire day. You stop carrying other people's behavior as if it is your burden. You walk with a calm strength that others notice. You speak less, but your presence says more. You handle challenges with a steady mind, and you begin to feel a peace inside you that you may not have felt before. Understanding your triggers is not a small task. It is the foundation of emotional discipline. Without it, you stay stuck in the same reactions. With it, you step into a higher level of personal power. You live with clarity. You respond with intention. You protect your peace with intelligence, and you build a life where no one can easily shake you. This is the beginning of learning how to never get angry or bothered by anyone. You start by understanding yourself, because when you understand yourself, nothing outside you can break the balance inside you.
Chapter 2. Build self-awareness to reduce anger in daily situations. Self-awareness is one of the greatest tools a person can develop when trying to reduce anger in everyday situations. Most people move through their day without truly noticing what is happening inside them. They react fast, they speak without pausing, and they allow small moments to shape their entire mood. When you build self-awareness, you begin to understand what is happening in your mind and body long before anger shows up. You gain the ability to catch the early signs that your patience is dropping, your tone is shifting, or your stress is rising. This ability changes how you handle people and situations, because you are no longer living on automatic reactions. You are living with intelligence and clarity. Many people think anger is something that comes from the outside. They believe someone else made them angry. But when you look closely, anger begins inside you. It begins with your thoughts, your history, your expectations, and your emotional habits. Self-awareness helps you notice these things in real time. Instead of moving through your day blind to your internal responses, you start seeing them as they happen. This gives you space to act with intention. It gives you space to choose calm. When you notice a reaction forming, you have the chance to stop it before it becomes a problem. Self-awareness also helps you notice how your environment affects you. Every place you walk into brings a different energy. Some places lift you, some places drain you. Some people make you feel relaxed, others make you feel tense. When you pay attention, you can see how certain voices, tones, and behaviors affect your internal state. You can see how your body tightens around certain people or loosens around others. When you understand this, you can manage your surroundings better. You can place yourself where you can stay grounded instead of being pulled into frustration. Anger usually grows when you lose track of what is happening inside you. You start your day stressed, but you don't notice it. You rush through tasks, but you don't see how it changes your mood. You speak fast, walk fast, and think fast, and you don't realize how this pace shortens your patience. Then a small thing happens. Someone interrupts you, someone disagrees with you, or someone makes a mistake. You react instantly, not because the moment is serious, but because you were already under pressure without knowing it. Self-awareness helps you see these patterns. It helps you catch yourself before the situation controls you. A person who is self-aware can step back from their reactions and observe them without judgment. They can say to themselves, "I feel pressure building," or "My tone is getting sharp," or "My thoughts are becoming tense." This observation alone reduces the power of anger. When you are aware of what you feel, your emotions lose the ability to take over your actions. You can guide yourself, You can slow your mind. You can adjust your behavior before the problem grows. Self-awareness is not about ignoring your emotions. It is about understanding them. When you understand what you feel, you can handle situations better. You can communicate more clearly. You can avoid misunderstandings. You can stay calm in moments where others would react. This creates a strong presence, a steady mind, and a higher level of emotional maturity. People around you notice this stability. They feel safer around you because they know you are not unpredictable. You become the person who stays composed even when things get tense. One important part of building self-awareness is learning to observe your thoughts. When someone says something you don't like, what is the first thought that appears? When someone disagrees with you, what story does your mind create? When you feel disrespected, what meaning do you attach to the moment? These thoughts influence your reaction. If the thought is negative, quick, or emotional, your reactions will match it. When you pay attention to your thoughts, you can challenge them. You can ask yourself whether your mind is exaggerating the moment. You can ask yourself whether the situation is truly as serious as it feels. This gives you power over your reactions. Another part of self-awareness is noticing how your body speaks to you. The body reacts before the mind catches up. Your heart rate increases. Your shoulders get tight. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your hands move more. Your jaw tightens. These signals appear before anger becomes visible. When you notice these signals, you can take a step back and calm your physical state. When your body calms down, your mind becomes clear. When your mind becomes clear, your reactions improve. You create a cycle that supports peace instead of conflict. Self-awareness also helps you understand your limits. Every person has a limit to how much pressure they can handle. When you ignore your limits, you become irritable. You lose patience quickly. You react without thinking. But when you know your limits, you can take care of yourself. You can take a short break. You can slow your pace. You can refuse unnecessary pressure. You can say no without guilt. When you respect your limits, you reduce the chances of being triggered by small things. Anger often grows when expectations do not match reality. You expect someone to act a certain way, and when they don't, you feel bothered. You expect a situation to go smoothly, and when it doesn't, frustration rises. Self-awareness helps you adjust your expectations. It teaches you that you cannot control others. You cannot control every event. You cannot predict everything that happens, but you can control your outlook. You can stay flexible. You can accept that people think differently, speak differently, and behave differently. When you develop this awareness, you stop demanding that the world match your preferences. You become more patient because you understand life more clearly. Self-awareness also gives you the ability to see how your past influences your present. Many reactions come from old experiences. A comment that bothered you years ago may still affect you today without your awareness. A tone that you heard in childhood may still trigger frustration now. When you reflect on your reactions, you start seeing these connections. You understand why certain things bother you more than others. This understanding allows you to break old emotional patterns. You no longer react from the past. You respond from the present. Building self-awareness requires practice. You cannot improve it in one day, but every day gives you opportunities to observe yourself. When you speak to someone, notice how you feel. When you make decisions, notice your thoughts. When you walk through your day, pay attention to the small shifts inside you. This practice teaches you to live consciously. You stop moving through life on autopilot. You become more intentional about how you think, speak, and act. Self-awareness also helps you stay honest with yourself. You stop blaming others for every emotional reaction. You stop pointing fingers. You stop thinking that other people are the problem. You understand that your reactions belong to you. This honesty is not weakness. It is strength. It is the foundation of emotional growth. When you take ownership, you gain control. When you avoid ownership, you remain stuck. The more self-aware you become, the more you understand what brings you peace
and what disturbs your peace. You learn what habits support calmness and what habits create tension. You learn which conversations drain your energy and which conversations make you stronger. You learn which actions align with your character and which actions take you away from it. This knowledge gives you direction. It helps you design a life where anger becomes rare, because your choices support stability. A person with strong self-awareness communicates better. They choose their words carefully. They take time to think before speaking. They pay attention to the impact of their tone. They know when to talk and when to stay quiet. They know when to express themselves and when to step back. This kind of communication reduces conflict, misunderstanding, and frustration. Self-awareness also improves your relationships. When you understand yourself, you treat people better. You become more understanding, more patient, and more thoughtful. You listen instead of reacting. You observe instead of assuming. You try to understand the situation before forming a judgment. This reduces unnecessary anger and tension. It allows you to build stronger bonds with others. Anger loses its power when you know yourself deeply. You cannot be easily shaken by someone's words. You cannot be controlled by someone's tone. You cannot be disturbed by someone's attitude. You stay centered because you understand your emotional landscape. You know what is happening inside you, and nothing outside you can push you into chaos without your permission. Building self-awareness is a lifelong practice. It grows with reflection, patience, and honesty. But every step you take brings you closer to emotional strength. When you understand yourself, you live with calm, you live with balance, you live with a clear mind and a steady heart. You become the kind of person who handles life with maturity, stability, and dignity. And in that state, anger no longer controls you. It becomes something you can manage, shape, and release with wisdom.
Chapter 3. Strengthen emotional control by noticing tension early inside you. Emotional control becomes stronger when you learn to notice tension at the very beginning, before it grows into anger or frustration. Most people only become aware of their emotions after they have already reacted. They realize they were tense only after they raised their voice, rushed their words, or felt their patience collapse. By then, the damage is already done. The secret to true emotional strength is recognizing the earliest signs that something inside you is shifting. When you catch that shift early, you prevent unnecessary reactions, protect your peace, and handle situations with a steady mind. Tension rarely appears suddenly. It builds quietly. It starts in very small ways that most people overlook because they are too focused on what is happening outside. They get caught in the moment, lost in the conversation, or distracted by the situation. They forget to check what is happening internally. When you begin to notice tension early, you gain a level of control that most people never develop. You become more aware of your emotional temperature. You see the warning signs before they turn into something bigger. This awareness doesn't make you emotionless. It makes you emotionally intelligent. When you pay attention, you notice that tension shows up in your body before it shows up in your behavior. The body responds faster than your words or actions. Your breathing becomes shorter. Your shoulders feel heavier. Your heart rate moves a little faster. Your hands start shifting more than usual. Your face feels warmer. These signals appear quietly, but they are clear if you learn to listen. When you catch these signals early, you can calm yourself before anger forms. You can pause. You can adjust your tone. You can slow your pace. You can keep your dignity and protect your inner balance. Noticing tension early also gives you the chance to understand what is causing it. Instead of reacting blindly, you can see the source. Sometimes the tension comes from the situation. Sometimes it comes from the person you are interacting with. Sometimes it comes from your own thoughts. And sometimes it comes from stress that has nothing to do with the moment. When you notice the tension early, you don't let it control your response. You take a mental step back. You remind yourself that you have a choice. You can decide whether the situation deserves your emotional energy or not. There is a difference between reacting instantly and responding wisely. Reaction happens when you don't notice tension early. Response happens when you do. In the early moments, you have space. You have clarity. You have control. When you react without noticing your internal state, your emotions take over. You say things you don't mean. You behave in ways that don't reflect who you really are. But when you notice tension early, you stay aligned with your values. You stay calm even when others are not. This is the kind of inner power that creates respect and confidence. Tension grows when you ignore it. The longer you avoid noticing your internal state, the more likely you are to lose balance. It works the same way as physical pain. If you ignore a small ache in your body, it becomes worse over time. Emotional tension is the same. When you catch it early, you can release it easily. When you ignore it, it grows into something heavier. Emotional control begins with awareness, not force. You cannot force yourself to stay calm if you do not recognize the signs that you are becoming tense. One practical way to strengthen emotional control is to check in with yourself throughout the day. You don't need a long process. A simple moment of awareness is enough. Ask yourself how your body feels. Ask yourself how your thoughts are moving. Notice your breathing. Notice your pace. Notice your tone. These small check-ins train your mind to detect tension quickly. Eventually, it becomes natural. You don't have to remind yourself. Your awareness becomes a habit, and this habit protects you from reacting impulsively. Many people believe they need to wait until they are calm to handle a situation. But emotional strength is not built in calm moments. It is built in the moments when you feel pressure rising. These are the moments where you train yourself. These are the moments where you shape your discipline. When you feel tension starting, that is your opportunity to practice. The earlier you notice it, the easier it is to manage. You are not fighting a storm. You are guiding a small wave before it grows. Another advantage of noticing tension early is that it helps you express yourself more clearly. When you are aware of your internal state, you speak with more intention. You choose your words with care. You avoid speaking out of frustration. You communicate with clarity rather than heat. This reduces misunderstandings. It reduces conflict. It improves your relationships because people feel safe around someone who can stay grounded even in uncomfortable moments. Noticing tension early also helps you stay patient. When you feel yourself becoming tense, you recognize the need to slow down. You recognize that the moment requires composure. This awareness gives you a chance to choose patience before impulsive behavior takes over. Patience is not something you develop only during peaceful moments. It grows when you feel tension rising and choose not to let it take control. Choosing patience early is much easier than trying to repair the damage later. Emotional control also strengthens when you take responsibility for your internal state. You stop blaming others for how you feel. You stop saying that someone ruined your day or made you angry. You realize that the tension started inside you long before the moment became uncomfortable. This shift in mindset changes everything. When you take responsibility, you gain power. When you avoid responsibility, you remain dependent on other people's behavior. Noticing tension early puts you in charge of your emotions. You no longer wait for situations to calm down. You calm yourself down. Another benefit of noticing tension early is that it helps prevent emotional buildup. Many people carry tension from one situation to the next without realizing it. They get frustrated in the morning and carry that tension into their afternoon. They feel stressed at work and bring that tension home. They never release it. They let it pile up until a small trigger becomes a big explosion. When you learn to notice tension early,
You release it before it becomes too heavy. You don't let yesterday's frustration affect today's peace. You reset yourself regularly, and this creates emotional stability. The more you practice noticing tension early, the more you understand your emotional patterns. You begin to recognize the situations that challenge you the most. You notice the tones that irritate you. You see the habits that make you uncomfortable. You understand which behaviors you need to improve. This insight helps you prepare rather than react. It helps you walk into situations with readiness instead of fear. You start to recognize your emotional weak points and work on them with confidence. Strengthening emotional control also involves slowing down the moment you feel tension rising. Many people escalate their emotional state by speeding up. They talk faster, move faster, think faster. This only increases the intensity. When you notice tension early, you can slow down on purpose. You can breathe deeply. You can relax your shoulders. You can speak more softly. These small shifts send signals to your mind that you are still in control. The body and mind work together. When your body calms down, your mind follows. Another important part of emotional control is reminding yourself that tension is temporary. It will pass if you do not feed it. When you notice tension early, you give it less room to grow. You treat it like a signal, not an enemy. This shift allows you to stay calm even when the moment feels uncomfortable. You understand that the emotion does not define the situation. It does not define you. It is simply a sign that you need to adjust something inside. When you master the skill of noticing tension early, you naturally become more grounded. People cannot easily provoke you. Situations cannot easily shake you. You stop reacting to every small problem. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You move through the world with a steady presence. You make better decisions because you are not clouded by sudden emotional bursts. Emotional control becomes a part of who you are, not something you try to force. You also develop a deeper sense of trust in yourself. You know you can handle difficult moments. You know you can stay composed under pressure. This confidence frees you from fear. You no longer avoid challenges. You no longer fear confrontation. You no longer lose control when things don't go your way. You approach life with a stronger sense of inner stability. Strengthening emotional control is a lifelong process, but every step brings growth. Each time you notice tension early, you learn more about yourself. You become more skilled at handling pressure. You become more capable of staying calm. You build emotional habits that protect your peace. Emotional strength is not about perfection. It is about awareness. When you can sense tension before it becomes anger, you have already mastered half the battle. The real transformation begins when you practice this consistently. Over time, you will notice that what once bothered you no longer affects you as much. You will notice that you stay calm in situations where you once reacted automatically. You will notice that your relationships improve because you communicate with clarity and balance. You will notice that your mind feels lighter because you are no longer carrying stress you didn't recognize. This skill gives you freedom. Freedom from unnecessary anger. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom from constant tension. You gain the ability to move through life with peace, control, and confidence. And it all begins with noticing the earliest signs of tension inside you. This awareness becomes your strength. It becomes your protection. It becomes the foundation of a calmer and more powerful version of yourself.
Chapter 4. Practice steady breathing to keep your mind balanced. When you start paying attention to your breathing, something surprising begins to happen inside you. You notice the way your chest rises, the way your shoulders sit, the way your body reacts even before your mind tries to explain what you're feeling. Most people never give their breathing a second thought. They breathe fast when stressed, slow when tired, shallow when worried, and they don't even catch that their own body is preparing them to react before they've made a conscious choice. But if you want to stay calm, if you want to keep your emotions steady, if you want to stop anger from knocking you off balance, then your breathing becomes more than a physical habit. It becomes the steering wheel of your emotional life. When you breathe with intention, you gain control over the rising tension that tries to take over your decisions. And this control doesn't come from force, it comes from awareness and consistency. When your day starts, you might feel fine, you might think everything is under control, then a small inconvenience shows up. Someone speaks with a tone you don't appreciate. You get stuck behind someone walking slowly. You check your phone and see a message that triggers frustration. These moments look tiny on the outside, but inside they start shifting your breathing. Your heart picks up speed, your breath becomes short, your body gets tighter. That tension isn't random, it's your system preparing you to react. When you don't pay attention to that shift, anger enters the room before you even notice you opened the door for it. But steady breathing gives you the power to see what's happening early. Not after the reaction, not after you say something you regret, not after your mood crashes. You catch it when it's still small, when it's still easy to shape. I learned long ago that the body often speaks before the mind forms a thought. Steady breathing helps translate that early message. Imagine a moment when someone makes a rude comment. The first thing that changes inside you isn't your thoughts, it's your breath. You inhale sharply, your chest tightens, your stomach contracts. That's your body telling you you're about to respond based on tension instead of reason. When you train yourself to pause and breathe steadily at that exact moment, something powerful happens. You interrupt the rise of anger. You interrupt the emotional storm before it gathers speed. You replace the automatic reaction with a deliberate response. And once you learn to do it once, you'll want to do it again because you'll start experiencing what calmness really feels like. Not the calmness of silence, but the calmness of control. Breathing steadily doesn't mean pretending that stress doesn't exist. It means giving yourself a space between what happens and what you choose to do about it. When your breathing becomes even and controlled, your mind follows, your thoughts slow down, your reasoning becomes clearer, and you no longer feel pushed by the situation. You start leading it. A steady breath brings the mind back into the present moment. You stop imagining outcomes, stop replaying what someone said, stop judging yourself for feeling irritated. You come back to the reality that's right in front of you. And that's where calm decisions are made. Not in the past, not in the future. In the moments you're fully aware of your body, your breath, your senses. There's something honest about steady breathing. It tells you the truth about your condition. If you're breathing fast, you know your body is preparing for emotional tension. If you're breathing shallow, you know your system is trying to close in on itself. When you breathe slow and steady, you're signaling to your body that you're safe, that you're capable, that you're in control. Many people think calmness is an emotional talent. It's not. It's a skill. And steady breathing is one of the first tools that strengthen that skill. When your breath evens out, you naturally feel more grounded. Your shoulders loosen, your voice softens, your mind opens. You can listen better. You can think with clarity. You can understand the situation without feeling as though you're under threat. Anger often feels like something external. Someone upsets you. Someone disrespects you. Someone pushes your boundaries. But the real battle doesn't happen outside. It happens inside your body. When your breathing rushes, your state shifts. You feel smaller, more reactive, more sensitive to what others say or do. But when your breathing stays steady, your internal state remains tall and centered.
You can look at the situation without shrinking into defensiveness or expanding into aggression. You stay balanced. And balance is one of the strongest forms of power a person can have. Think about the last time you felt offended. Before any words left your mouth, before any action was taken, your breathing changed. That's the doorway. That's the moment where anger is either fed or starved. When you train yourself to take steady breaths during small frustrations, you prepare yourself for bigger ones. You build a habit of responding with intention. You form a new identity, someone who thinks first, someone who stays calm under pressure, someone who doesn't give their emotional power to anyone around them. That identity is built through the simple act of noticing your breath and keeping it steady even when your feelings try to pull you in a different direction. You might think steady breathing is too simple to make a difference, but the truth is, simplicity is often what gives you the strongest control. When you're overwhelmed, you won't remember complicated techniques. When someone provokes you, you won't have time for long strategies, but you'll always have your breath. It's the one tool that never leaves you. It's with you in every room, every conversation, every unexpected situation. When someone challenges you, you can breathe. When someone tries to get under your skin, you can breathe. When the day throws more at you than you expected, you can breathe. And the more consistently you do it, the stronger your emotional control becomes. It's not about slow breathing for relaxation. It's about steady breathing for regulation. There's a difference. Relaxation aims to calm you after the stress has already hit. Regulation keeps you balanced while the stress is happening. When you breathe steady during a tense moment, you're training your system to stay centered regardless of what people say or do. And that kind of training changes the way you carry yourself through life. You start noticing tension earlier. You start making better choices. You start walking with a sense of certainty, because you know you won't lose control easily. You stop fearing difficult conversations. You stop overreacting to everyday irritations. You stop letting small moments ruin your peace. As your breathing becomes steadier, you also begin to notice the moods of others more clearly. You can see when someone is projecting their own stress. You can sense when someone is speaking from impatience. Instead of matching their energy, you maintain your own. You stay grounded, and grounded people don't rise and fall based on the emotions of the room. They set the tone. They influence the atmosphere. They bring stability where others bring chaos. And that influence starts with the quietest habit. Steady breathe. Over time, you'll realize that steady breathing is not just a technique. It's a lifestyle. It makes you patient. It gives you mental clarity. It helps you take responsibility for your emotions. Instead of letting them run your life, it makes you thoughtful instead of reactive. It creates a calm presence that others can feel. People begin to treat you differently because you respond differently. You stop being the person who snaps. You stop being the person who gets bothered quickly. You become someone who thinks with strength and behaves with intention. And that's the kind of person who doesn't get angry easily, because their internal world is not thrown around by every external situation. Their breathing keeps them steady. Their steadiness keeps them strong. Their strength keeps them in control. That's how emotional power is built. Quietly, steady, breath by breath.
Chapter 5. Develop patience by giving yourself time before responding. Patience begins with the simple decision not to rush yourself. When something irritates you, when someone says something that stings, when a situation pushes you toward reacting fast, you feel that pressure inside your body. It shows up as a sudden warmth in your chest, a tightening in your jaw, a spike of energy in your stomach that urges you to respond right away. Most people follow that urge without question. They speak too quickly, they act without thinking, and later they wonder why the moment turned into something bigger than it needed to be. But when you learn to pause, even for a few seconds, you give yourself a chance to choose a better response. That small space you create becomes a source of strength. When you give yourself time before responding, you aren't avoiding the situation, you're shaping it. You're taking back authority over your own reactions. You're slowing the emotional rush that tries to pull you into saying something you'll wish you could take back. You're telling yourself, I don't have to move at the speed of my irritation. That decision alone can change the way you experience people, conversations and disagreements. Instead of letting your emotions steer your actions, you allow your understanding to guide you. And understanding always works better when you allow a brief moment to gather your thoughts. The truth is, many reactions that cause trouble are not reactions you chose. They came from impatience, from pressure, from the belief that you have to respond right now, but most of the time, you don't. When someone asks you a question that puts you on the spot, you can pause. When someone speaks with a tone that feels disrespectful, you can pause. When you feel insulted, misunderstood, or pushed, you can pause. That pause doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise, because it's in that pause that your clarity returns. It's in that pause that your reasoning becomes stronger than your emotion. There's something powerful about giving your mind a moment before you act. You allow the tension inside you to settle. You let the first wave of frustration fade. You allow your thoughts to move from reaction to reflection. And when your thoughts shift, everything else shifts with them. You find that the comment that bothered you doesn't bother you as much. The tone that felt sharp doesn't feel as threatening. The situation that looked big suddenly looks manageable. All because you gave yourself time. Think of how many moments in your life would have turned out smoother if you had waited just a few seconds before responding. Think of the arguments that could have been avoided, the misunderstandings that could have been lowered, the frustration that could have remained small instead of growing into something overwhelming. Most emotional mistakes happen because people respond in the heat of the first feeling. That first feeling is usually the most intense, the least accurate, and the least helpful. When you delay your reaction, even slightly, the intensity drops. You see the situation with a clearer mind, and clarity creates patience. Patience is not something you are born with, it's something you develop through practice. One way to build that practice is by noticing the first sign of urgency inside you. Urgency tells you to hurry. Urgency tells you to defend. Urgency tells you to match the energy of the person in front of you. But when you hear that urgency inside your own mind, that's the moment to slow down. Not because you're afraid of conflict, not because you're trying to avoid discomfort, but because you want to respond with control instead of impulse. You want to choose the version of yourself that represents your strength, not your frustration. Every time you give yourself time before responding, you train your emotional endurance. You're teaching your mind that it doesn't have to chase every feeling the moment it appears. You're teaching yourself to tolerate discomfort without rushing to escape it. And that tolerance becomes patience. You start feeling more composed in difficult conversations. You stop taking small comments personally. You handle pressure without panicking. You stay steady in situations that once threw you off balance. And people sense that strength in you. They notice the way you carry yourself. They feel the calmness in your voice. They see that you don't break easily. One thing many people forget is that patience is not only for big challenges. It grows from small daily delays. The moment you feel annoyed waiting for someone to finish speaking, that's your chance to build patience. The moment you feel irritated because something didn't happen as quickly as you wanted, that's your chance. The moment someone interrupts you, the moment your plans get disrupted, the moment something takes longer than expected, these are not inconveniences. They are training grounds.
They help you strengthen your ability to stay composed no matter what happens. When you give yourself time before responding, you also protect your relationships. Words spoken in anger don't disappear. Actions driven by impatience leave marks. But words spoken with thoughtfulness stay respectful, even in disagreement. When you take a moment before speaking, your communication improves. You listen better. You understand the other person's intention instead of assuming the worst. You express yourself more clearly, and clarity lowers conflict. Strong relationships come from people who know how to pause, think and respond with care instead of reacting with frustration. Some people believe responding slowly makes them look unsure or weak, but it's the opposite. When you pause, you look controlled, you look steady, you look confident enough not to be pushed. People respect someone who doesn't speak out of anger. They trust someone who takes a moment to think. They feel safe around someone who doesn't let emotions run the room. That kind of presence builds authority. It shows maturity. It shows discipline. And discipline is one of the strongest traits a person can have. Patience also changes the way you handle yourself mentally. When you respond quickly out of irritation, your mind stays restless. You replay the moment. You argue with yourself. You feel regret. But when you give yourself time before responding, your mind stays cleaner. You don't carry the weight of unnecessary conflict. You don't feel guilty for reacting too strongly. You don't waste energy trying to fix the damage caused by a few careless seconds. Your days feel lighter because you don't drag emotional mistakes behind you. Developing patience requires understanding your own pace. Some people talk fast, some react fast, some think fast, but responding fast doesn't mean responding wisely. When something triggers you, slow your internal rhythm. Feel the moment. Notice the thoughts rising in your mind. Notice the heat in your body. Notice the urge to speak. This awareness creates space. In that space, you can choose whether the reaction you feel is worth acting on. Most of the time it isn't. Most of the time the moment only feels big because your emotions are loud. Give those emotions a chance to quiet down and you'll understand the situation with much more accuracy. There's a certain confidence that comes from knowing you don't have to rush. You approach every situation with calm authority. You stop feeling threatened by words. You stop feeling pressured by people's expectations. You stop feeling the need to defend yourself from every comment. You become secure inside yourself. That security is what reduces anger more than anything else. When you feel steady inside, the world outside has less power to shake you. Developing patience also helps you protect your energy. When you respond quickly, you often give away more of yourself than necessary. You give away time, peace, and focus. But when you wait before responding, you conserve energy. You decide if the situation deserves a full response or just a short, calm acknowledgement. You learn to let things go before they become a burden. You learn to stay centered, even in uncomfortable moments. And that control over your own energy becomes one of your greatest strengths. Patience doesn't mean accepting disrespect. It means deciding how you want to respond to it. It means choosing strength over impulse. It means choosing clarity over tension. It means recognizing that your emotional stability is worth more than any moment of irritation. When you give yourself time before responding, you're protecting your peace. You're protecting your dignity. You're protecting your mind from unnecessary stress. And over time, those small choices become a pattern. That pattern becomes your habit, and that habit becomes your character. When you live with patience, anger loses its grip on you. You become someone who thinks carefully, speaks thoughtfully, and acts intentionally. You feel stronger, more balanced, and more in control of your life. And it all begins with the simple practice of giving yourself time before responding.
Chapter 6. Focus on facts to avoid reacting from assumptions. Most people don't get angry because of what actually happened. They get angry because of what they think happened, and there is a very big difference. When you react from assumptions, you respond to a story your mind created, not the reality in front of you. That story often comes from fear, old memories, insecurity, or misunderstandings that feel true but have no real foundation. If you want to stay calm and grounded, you have to work with facts. You have to deal with what you know, not what you guess. When you shift your focus to facts, your emotions stop running ahead of your understanding. Your reactions become reasonable, controlled and steady. You stop carrying unnecessary tension inside you, and you begin to handle situations with a clear head. Assumptions are emotional shortcuts. The mind creates them to protect you from uncertainty. The problem is that these shortcuts are often wrong. You assume someone spoke in a harsh tone because they disrespect you. You assume someone ignored your message because they don't care. You assume someone didn't greet you because they're upset with you. You assume someone's silence means anger. You assume someone's quick response means frustration, and each assumption triggers tension inside your body, as if the assumption were a confirmed truth. Your heart rate rises, your breathing tightens, your thoughts speed up. You start defending yourself against a situation that might not even exist. This is why focusing on facts is a powerful emotional skill. Facts slow your mind down. Facts make you think instead of react. Facts bring you back to what is real, not what feels real. When you pause and ask yourself what you actually know for sure, you create space between your emotions and your response. In that space, your anger softens, your thoughts settle, and your judgment becomes sharp enough to handle the moment without losing control. When you focus on facts, you teach your mind to look deeper instead of jumping to conclusions. You begin asking better questions. You start examining your thoughts instead of letting them rush past you. You become more patient because you're no longer racing to protect yourself from imagined threats. This shift brings emotional stability. It builds self-control. It helps you handle uncomfortable situations with confidence instead of fear. Anger often comes from misinterpretation. Something happens and you fill in the missing details with your own fears or expectations. But the truth is, you never know what someone is thinking until you ask. You never know someone's intention until you listen. You never understand the full situation until you gather enough information to see it clearly. When you rely on assumptions, you treat your guesses as facts. And guesses can destroy your peace. They can make you react too strongly. They can push you into conflict that could have been avoided. They can create distance between you and people who never meant to hurt you. Focusing on facts means grounding yourself in what is confirmed. It means slowing your reactions long enough to question your first interpretation. It means checking the reality before you trust your emotion, and it means refusing to let vague feelings guide your behavior. You begin to respond only after you have clarity. That clarity frees you from unnecessary emotional pain. There is something powerful about learning to separate what you know from what you assume. When you do this consistently, your emotional state becomes steady. You stop wasting energy on situations that don't deserve it. You stop reacting to imagined problems. You stop taking things personally when they aren't personal. And you stop letting fear create stories that steal your peace. Whenever you feel triggered, ask yourself a simple question. What do I know for sure? You'll be surprised how often the answer is almost nothing. Maybe someone didn't respond to you because they were busy. Maybe someone spoke quickly because they were stressed. Maybe someone looked distracted because they had something else on their mind. Maybe someone didn't smile because they were tired. None of these possibilities are personal. When you focus on facts, you allow room for these possibilities. You understand that people have their own experiences that rarely revolve around you. Emotional maturity comes from recognizing that your first interpretation is not always accurate. Wisdom comes from questioning your thoughts instead of obeying. Calmness comes from giving yourself enough time to understand a situation before reacting to it. These skills make you less sensitive to things that would normally upset you. They make you far less bothered by people's behavior. You start to see that many moments that once triggered you were simply misunderstandings caused by assumptions. When you focus on facts, you also communicate better. Your conversations become clearer because you stop accusing people based on incomplete information. Instead of reacting with "you did this," you speak with curiosity and clarity. You ask for details. You seek understanding. You give people a chance to explain themselves. This reduces conflict, builds trust, and strengthens relationship. People feel safer around you because they know you don't judge them prematurely. This creates an environment where openness is possible. Focusing on facts also improves your self-respect. When you stop reacting emotionally, you feel more in control of yourself. You carry yourself with composure. You respond with stability, and that stability builds confidence. You no longer feel overwhelmed by situations that once bothered you. Instead, you handle them with calm authority. People notice your steady presence. They see that you don't get shaken easily. That kind of emotional discipline elevates your character. There's another benefit of focusing on facts. It protects your mind from unnecessary stress. Assumptions drain your mental energy. They make you overthink. They create emotional noise that distracts you from what matters. When you deal only with what is real, your mind becomes lighter. You spend less time analyzing imaginary problems. You spend more time making grounded decisions. You free your mind from the cycles of confusion that assumptions create. You also become more compassionate when you stop assuming the worst. You recognize that people have struggles you may not see. You understand that someone's behavior could come from stress, exhaustion, confusion, or insecurity. This understanding softens your emotional reaction. You begin to give people grace instead of anger. You begin to give them time instead of judgment, and that compassion helps you stay calm even in difficult interactions. When you focus on facts, you develop the ability to think clearly under pressure. You don't let sudden emotions push you into decisions. You take a moment to step back, gather information, and respond with intention. This level of self-control changes the way you move through life. Challenges feel easier to manage. Disagreements feel less overwhelming. Unexpected situations don't throw you off balance. You become someone who stays steady no matter what happens. The habit of returning to facts helps you in every part of life. At work, you become more reliable because your decisions are grounded, not emotional. In relationships, you build trust because you stay calm instead of assuming the worst. In daily life, you feel more peaceful because you're not flooded with unnecessary emotional reactions. And inside yourself, you feel stronger because you know your emotions don't control your action. Focusing on facts gives you emotional freedom. It frees you from the trap of overthinking. It frees you from the fear of hidden intentions. It frees you from misinterpretations that create conflict. It frees you from reacting to problems that don't exist. And when your mind is free from these burdens, you begin living with more clarity, more maturity, and more confidence. The more you practice this skill, the easier it becomes. At first, you may catch yourself reacting from assumptions out of habit.
That's normal. But each time you pause and ask for facts, you strengthen your emotional stability. Each time you choose understanding over assumption, you grow. Each time you question your first reaction, you become less reactive and more composed. Over time you notice that fewer things bother you. Fewer people trigger you. Fewer situations upset you. You become someone who doesn't jump to conclusions. Someone who doesn't let emotions cloud judgment. Someone who stays calm because they see reality clearly. That level of emotional clarity is rare, and it transforms the way you live. When you focus on facts, you take control of your mind. When you act from clarity, you protect your peace. When you stop reacting from assumptions, you stop letting the unnecessary steal your energy. This is how you reduce anger. This is how you stay grounded. This is how you keep your mind balanced. And this is how you become someone who cannot be easily shaken by anyone or anything.
Chapter 7. Train daily awareness to stay calm under pressure. Anger begins in the mind before it reaches the body, and understanding this simple truth can completely change the way a person experiences conflict. When someone pushes our buttons or says something that irritates us, the automatic reaction is to lash out or feel that heat building inside. The key to changing that reaction is awareness and consistent practice. Awareness is more than just noticing feelings. It is observing them with curiosity and without judgment. Every time tension rises in the body, it sends signals that something needs attention, and if we learn to notice those signals early, we have the opportunity to respond rather than react. Imagine feeling that tightness in your chest or the heat in your face, and instead of immediately reacting, you simply recognize it and breathe. That recognition itself is a form of power. Each time the mind notices these subtle changes, it strengthens the ability to remain calm, even when situations feel intense or overwhelming. Daily life is full of moments that test patience and self-control, and these moments are training grounds. The first step is to check in with your body multiple times a day and identify any areas of tension. When muscles clench or the heartbeat accelerates, acknowledge it instead of pushing it away. Labeling emotions silently, like saying to yourself, "This is irritation" or "This is frustration," can prevent the mind from exaggerating the situation. This is how emotional control begins, by recognizing tension before it takes over. Once awareness is in place, the next layer is learning to observe the cause of that tension. Often people react based on assumptions or past experiences instead of the present reality. By slowing down and mentally separating the fact from interpretation, the mind gains clarity. Ask yourself what is actually happening right now and what is imagined or assumed. This practice not only reduces the likelihood of overreaction, but also strengthens mental resilience. Over time, this leads to a state where provocation from others does not automatically trigger anger. People will say or do things that bother you, but when your mind has trained itself to remain calm, those actions become neutral data points instead of emotional triggers. It is not about ignoring problems or allowing disrespect, but about controlling your response so it does not harm your peace of mind. Breathing is another powerful tool that supports emotional control. When tension is noticed, taking steady, conscious breaths immediately engages the nervous system in a calming process. Breathing in slowly for a count of 4, holding for a count of 4, and exhaling for a count of 6 reduces the intensity of the emotional spike. This simple act also slows down the heart rate and signals to the mind that it is safe to remain grounded. Practicing this consistently ensures that when tension arises unexpectedly, the body and mind are prepared to maintain composure. Combining awareness with steady breathing creates a strong foundation for handling any external stress without being overwhelmed. Patience plays a critical role in responding thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Giving yourself even a brief pause before speaking or acting allows the emotional energy to settle. In those few seconds, the mind can choose a response that aligns with personal values rather than temporary frustration. Cultivating patience requires repeated practice and intentionality. Start by noticing small irritations during the day and deliberately pausing before responding. This strengthens the habit of measured responses and eventually becomes a natural part of how interactions are handled. With patience, the emotional reactions that once dominated behavior lose their intensity and influence. Focusing on facts rather than assumptions is another essential skill. Many times anger arises from interpreting situations in a way that confirms fear or resentment. Stopping to verify reality instead of jumping to conclusions reduces unnecessary conflict. Ask questions, gather information, and separate what is known from what is imagined. By relying on clear evidence, the mind avoids being hijacked by emotional impulses that are based on misinterpretation. This discipline of fact-checking thoughts strengthens emotional stability and builds confidence in handling challenges with clarity. Daily awareness practices expand this foundation further. Paying attention to body sensations, thoughts, and the external environment trains the mind to remain centered even in high-pressure situations. Mindfulness exercises such as short meditative pauses, body scans, or reflective journaling help maintain a steady inner state. The more these practices are integrated into daily life, the more resilient the mind becomes. When someone challenges, criticizes, or provokes, the habitual calm developed through consistent awareness allows a response that is intentional rather than reactive. Daily reinforcement of this awareness creates an internal environment where peace becomes the default state, not an occasional achievement. Managing external expectations is another critical aspect of staying calm. People often become bothered because they expect others to behave in a particular way. Letting go of rigid expectations and accepting that everyone has their own mindset and behavior patterns reduces frustration. Observing people without trying to control them allows interactions to be experienced without unnecessary emotional burden. Recognizing that anger often stems from unmet expectations, adjusting those expectations, and focusing on personal responses empowers the individual. The mind then approaches relationships and encounters with curiosity and understanding rather than defensiveness and irritation. Developing a sense of internal security strengthens the ability to stay calm under pressure. When confidence and self-respect are rooted in personal values rather than external approval, the actions of others have less impact. Anger often arises when the mind feels threatened or undermined, but a secure sense of self buffers against that threat. Building this security comes from consistent self-reflection, personal growth, and achieving goals aligned with individual purpose. The stronger the foundation of self-assurance, the less likely outside disturbances will provoke strong emotional reaction. This inner strength is not built overnight, but grows with steady, conscious effort. Learning to shift perspective can be transformative in maintaining calm. Seeing challenges as opportunities to practice emotional control reframes how situations are approached. Instead of viewing difficult interactions as attacks, they become chances to test patience, awareness, and composure. This mental shift encourages growth and reduces the emotional weight of confrontation. The mind begins to anticipate challenges, not with dread but with readiness, knowing that each moment is a chance to reinforce self-mastery. Perspective, in this sense, acts as a lens through which daily interactions are filtered, reducing unnecessary emotional turbulence. Finally, consistency and repetition are crucial. Emotional control is not a skill developed in one conversation or one stressful moment. It is strengthened each day through deliberate practice. Regularly applying awareness, breathing techniques, patience, fact-checking, and perspective shifts gradually rewires the mind.
Each small effort compounds over time, producing a person who responds to life calmly and deliberately. The journey is continuous and requires commitment, but every step taken to strengthen control enhances overall life satisfaction, relationships, and personal effectiveness. By training the mind to stay centered, the individual becomes a model of calm presence, able to navigate challenges without being dominated by anger or disturbance. Over time, maintaining composure becomes a natural reflex, not a forced effort. Every action in daily life becomes a practice opportunity. Morning routines, conversations, work stress, traffic, family interactions, and social media exposure all serve as exercises in patience and emotional awareness. Observing reactions, pausing before responding, and grounding the mind through steady breathing transforms ordinary experiences into training grounds for personal mastery. The cumulative effect of consistent attention to these practices produces a mental state that is resilient, clear, and calm. People may continue to act unpredictably or challenge boundaries, but the mind trained in this way remains stable and unshaken. The process of training daily awareness also involves reflection. After each interaction, review your reactions and note what worked and what did not. This self-assessment provides insight into patterns and areas for improvement. With reflection, the mind learns to anticipate triggers and respond more effectively in future situations. Reflection strengthens memory, reinforces successful strategies, and highlights areas for growth. Combining awareness, reflection, and deliberate practice ensures that emotional control is not left to chance, but becomes a deliberate part of daily life. Learning to manage emotions effectively transforms not just reactions, but overall quality of life. Relationships improve when responses are measured and thoughtful. Stress decreases when tension is noticed and addressed early. Confidence grows when the mind understands it can handle challenges without being overtaken by anger. Each practice, from noticing tension to focusing on facts, breathing steadily, and cultivating patience, contributes to a comprehensive system that promotes calmness and resilience. The life-changing impact of mastering emotional control extends beyond single interactions to personal health, career success, and fulfillment. In essence, training daily awareness is the backbone of emotional control. It requires attention to the present, recognition of internal states, and intentional actions to maintain balance. The mind becomes a tool rather than a battlefield, capable of assessing situations, making rational decisions, and sustaining peace. This skill transforms moments of potential frustration into opportunities for growth, making life more manageable, rewarding, and joyful. The ability to remain calm under pressure is not about avoiding conflict, but about mastering oneself so that no external circumstance can dictate internal peace. Every day offers new opportunities to practice this skill. From small irritations to significant confrontations, each moment allows the mind to exercise patience, attention, and composure. The consistency of these efforts gradually builds a permanent capacity for calmness. Over time, the individual develops an unshakable sense of inner peace and strength. The reactions of others lose their ability to control emotional state, and life becomes navigable with clarity and focus. Maintaining calm under pressure is not a temporary achievement. It becomes a defining characteristic that influences every decision, interaction, and moment of life. This ongoing commitment to self-awareness and emotional control changes not only how situations are experienced, but also how they are approached. Challenges are no longer intimidating, and conflicts are no longer disruptive. Instead, every interaction becomes a controlled environment for growth and reflection. People begin to notice the difference, responding to your calm presence with respect and consideration. Inner peace spreads outward, influencing the environment and those around you. The cumulative effect of daily practice, reflection, and application of awareness ensures that calmness is not fragile, but resilient and self-sustaining. The final aspect of training daily awareness is integrating it into every part of life. It is not enough to practice only in calm moments or in controlled environments. True mastery occurs when the mind remains centered during unexpected events, high-pressure situations, or emotional confrontation. By consistently applying awareness, patience, factual focus, and perspective, calmness becomes a permanent feature of behavior. The mind learns to anticipate triggers and respond intentionally, and the body mirrors this steadiness. Over time, remaining calm under pressure becomes instinctive and effortless, creating a life of stability, confidence, and emotional freedom. Through this practice, the individual experiences a transformation that affects every layer of existence. Decisions become clearer, interactions become smoother, stress diminishes, and personal growth accelerates. The mind no longer succumbs to minor irritations or provocations. Instead, it operates from a position of calm authority, assessing situations rationally and responding deliberately. The life-changing benefits of cultivating this skill ripple through relationships, work, health, and personal fulfillment. By training daily awareness and staying calm under pressure, a person attains a level of emotional mastery that allows them to live fully without being controlled or disturbed by external circumstances. The journey of emotional control is ongoing. Each day provides new experiences, challenges, and opportunities to practice. By maintaining commitment to self-observation, steady breathing, patience, fact-based thinking, perspective shifts, and reflection, the mind strengthens resilience and inner peace. The consistency of these practices shapes character, molds habits, and fortifies mental and emotional stability. Eventually, the ability to remain calm under pressure becomes second nature, creating a life defined by clarity, confidence, and freedom from unnecessary anger or disturbance. This process is not a quick fix, but a lifelong practice that rewards every effort with greater personal mastery, deeper relationships, and a sustained sense of well-being.
Chapter 8. Replace quick reactions with thoughtful choices during conflict. When conflict arises, the natural response for many people is to react immediately without thinking, letting emotions dictate behavior. This automatic response often leads to regret, damaged relationships, and unnecessary stress. To break this cycle, it is essential to replace impulsive reactions with thoughtful choices. Thoughtful choices are deliberate actions that consider consequences, align with personal values, and maintain internal peace. Developing this skill requires consistent awareness, discipline, and a willingness to pause before responding. The first step in making thoughtful choices is recognizing the moments when the body signals rising tension. This can be a rapid heartbeat, clenched muscles, shallow breathing, or a feeling of heat or pressure. These physical cues are not weaknesses, but opportunity. They serve as a warning that a decision is about to be influenced by emotion rather than reason. By noticing these signals early, it becomes possible to insert a pause, even if brief, to assess the situation before acting. This pause is the most powerful tool for turning automatic reactions into deliberate decisions. Once tension is noticed, the next focus is observing the emotion without judgment. Labeling feelings internally, such as saying silently, "This is frustration," or "This is irritation," helps create distance between the person and the emotion. When anger or annoyance is identified as a temporary state rather than a defining trait, the mind can analyze options more clearly. Recognizing emotions as data rather than commands allows the individual to consider the best response rather than responding based on a reflexive pattern. Shifting attention to the facts of the situation further enhances thoughtful choices. Often conflicts escalate because assumptions or interpretations are treated as truth. pausing to ask what is objectively happening, separating observable facts from imagined intentions, and questioning the accuracy of initial judgments reduces unnecessary emotional escalation. Focusing on what is real rather than what is assumed ensures that decisions are grounded in reality and not distorted by anger or fear. Another critical component of responding thoughtfully is considering long-term consequences. Every action in a conflict carries implications beyond the immediate moment. Reacting impulsively may provide a brief release of emotion, but often results in damage to relationships, reputation, or personal integrity. Thoughtful choices take a broader perspective, weighing the short-term emotional satisfaction against long-term goals and values. This perspective shifts the focus from winning an argument or proving a point to preserving peace, building trust, and maintaining control over one's life. Cultivating self-discipline supports the ability to respond intentionally. Self-discipline is developed through repeated practice, starting with small conflicts or irritations in everyday life. Each moment offers an opportunity to exercise restraint and make a deliberate choice. Over time, this habitual practice strengthens the capacity to remain calm and think clearly in more significant or high-stakes situations. Self-discipline is not about suppressing emotion entirely, but about managing it in a way that empowers rather than controls behavior. Communication skills play a vital role in replacing quick reactions with thoughtful choices. When speaking, it is essential to choose words carefully, ensuring they convey perspective without provoking defensiveness or escalating tension. Listening actively and attentively to the other person before responding provides context and reduces misunderstandings. Thoughtful choices in communication include asking clarifying questions, acknowledging the other person's perspective, and expressing oneself without aggression. This approach fosters constructive dialogue and diffuses potential conflict before it intensifies. Emotional regulation techniques support the ability to respond thoughtfully. Techniques such as steady, controlled breathing, mental counting, or brief mental visualization of calm scenarios provide a momentary break from the intensity of emotion. These practices allow the mind to regain clarity and the body to release tension, creating an optimal state for deliberate decision-making. Practicing these techniques regularly, even outside conflict situations, conditions the mind to maintain composure under stress. Developing empathy enhances the effectiveness of thoughtful responses. Understanding the perspective, emotions, and motivations of others in a conflict reduces the likelihood of personalizing actions or taking offense unnecessarily. Empathy does not mean agreement, but allows the mind to see beyond surface behavior and interpret intentions more accurately. With empathy, reactions are guided by insight rather than impulse, and decisions prioritize resolution and understanding rather than confrontation. Mindset plays a crucial role in consistently choosing thoughtful responses. Viewing conflicts as opportunities for personal growth rather than threats to ego changes how situations are approached. Each challenging interaction becomes a chance to practice patience, self-awareness, and strategic thinking. A mindset grounded in growth and self-mastery prioritizes learning from experiences over proving oneself in the moment. This perspective reduces emotional reactivity and encourages responses that strengthen relationships and personal character. Creating personal boundaries strengthens the capacity for thoughtful choices. Boundaries clarify what behavior is acceptable and what is not, reducing situations where emotions are necessarily triggered. Clear boundaries protect personal energy and focus attention on actions that are constructive rather than reactive. Establishing boundaries requires reflection on values, priorities, and the behaviors that are tolerable versus those that undermine peace. With firm boundaries, the mind can respond strategically, maintaining control while asserting needs effectively.
Reflective practice reinforces the habit of deliberate responses. After a conflict or challenging interaction, reviewing the situation helps identify what went well and what could improve. Reflection allows recognition of successful restraint, evaluation of emotional triggers, and planning for more effective choices in the future. Over time, reflection strengthens self-awareness and enhances the ability to respond thoughtfully in increasingly complex situations. This continuous feedback loop solidifies the transition from reactive patterns to intentional behavior. Visualization exercises further support the development of thoughtful response. Mentally rehearsing potential conflict scenarios and practicing composed reactions prepares the mind to handle real-life situations effectively. Visualization strengthens confidence, reduces anxiety, and enhances the ability to maintain composure. By repeatedly imagining oneself responding with clarity and patience, the mind internalizes these behaviors, making them more likely to manifest naturally in actual circumstances. Accountability and support systems can also contribute to maintaining thoughtful choices. Sharing goals of emotional control with trusted friends or mentors creates external reinforcement. Feedback from others provides perspective and encouragement, helping to sustain practice and commitment. Support systems remind individuals of progress, reinforce strategies, and offer advice for handling particularly challenging situations. Having external accountability strengthens internal motivation and ensures consistency in applying learned skills. Physical wellness supports the ability to respond thoughtfully. Adequate sleep, regular exercise, proper nutrition, and stress management improve cognitive function, emotional stability, and resilience. When the body is well maintained, the mind is better equipped to process challenges rationally and resist impulsive reactions. Neglecting physical health can heighten irritability, fatigue, and emotional volatility, making it more difficult to choose deliberate responses under pressure. Mindful decision-making is the ultimate goal of replacing quick reactions. Each moment of pause, observation, and evaluation strengthens the neural pathways associated with intentional action. Over time, making thoughtful choices becomes second nature, reducing the automatic influence of anger, frustration, or impatience. Thoughtful decision-making allows for interactions that are respectful, constructive, and aligned with personal values, creating more harmonious relationships and minimizing regret. Practicing gratitude and perspective-taking complements thoughtful response. Recognizing positive aspects of situations or the intentions of others reduces emotional intensity and creates a calmer mental state. Perspective-taking allows consideration of alternative explanations for behavior, reducing the tendency to react defensively. Together, these practices foster a mindset that prioritizes reasoned action over impulsive reaction. Finally, consistency is critical. Thoughtful responses are developed through repeated effort and deliberate practice. Each conflict, no matter how minor, serves as an opportunity to reinforce this skill. As the practice becomes habitual, the mind naturally shifts from reflexive reactions to deliberate, measured response. Over time, this transformation enhances personal effectiveness, strengthens relationships, and promotes a profound sense of emotional freedom and resilience. By consistently applying awareness, observation, empathy, reflection, and mindfulness, individuals learn to replace immediate emotional reactions with deliberate, thoughtful choices. This practice transforms conflict from a source of stress and regret into an opportunity for growth, learning, and personal mastery. The ability to respond thoughtfully empowers individuals to maintain composure, make strategic decisions, and live a life guided by clarity and intentionality, rather than by fleeting emotion. Over time, this disciplined approach to handling conflict becomes a defining characteristic, producing a life marked by stability, confidence, and emotional balance. Thoughtful decision-making is not a skill reserved for a select few. It is a practice accessible to anyone willing to observe themselves, pause and evaluate options, before acting. Every interaction, conversation, and confrontation provides a training ground for this practice. The cumulative effect of applying these principles consistently transforms emotional reactivity into calm deliberation, creating a life where peace, clarity, and rationality guide every action. Individuals who master this approach experience fewer regrets, stronger relationships, and a sense of control that empowers them to navigate life confidently. The process also involves ongoing refinement. Each new conflict presents nuances that test existing strategy. Adjusting approaches, learning from outcomes, and experimenting with alternative responses enhances mastery. This adaptive approach ensures that the ability to make thoughtful choices remains robust across various situations, personalities, and pressure. It creates flexibility without sacrificing calmness and decisiveness. Ultimately, replacing quick reactions with thoughtful choices is a transformative practice that empowers individuals to lead lives guided by intention rather than impulse. It requires patience, commitment, self-awareness, and deliberate action. Every step taken to cultivate this skill strengthens mental resilience, deepens self-understanding, and improves interpersonal dynamics. The result is not only mastery over personal reactions, but a life characterized by clarity, stability, and emotional freedom, where challenges are met with strategic calmness rather than uncontrolled frustration or anger.
Chapter 9. Strengthen confidence to stay unmoved by others' behavior. Confidence is the foundation for remaining steady when others act unpredictably or push boundaries. Without confidence, even minor comments or actions can feel like personal attacks, and the mind reacts defensively, creating unnecessary tension and conflict. Developing a strong sense of self-assurance allows you to navigate life with calmness and clarity regardless of how others behave. Confidence does not mean arrogance or dismissing others' opinions. It means knowing your worth, understanding your values, and trusting your judgment to guide your responses rather than external influences. Building this confidence requires consistent effort, self-reflection, and practical application in everyday interactions. The first step in strengthening confidence is recognizing your intrinsic value independent of external validation. Many people rely on approval, compliments, or recognition from others to feel worthy, which creates a fragile emotional state. When confidence comes from within, it is not shaken by criticism, rudeness, or disapproval. This inner assurance allows you to maintain composure in any situation, because your sense of self does not depend on the fluctuating behavior of those around you. To cultivate this, regularly remind yourself of your accomplishments, skills, and personal qualities. Write them down, review them, and internalize them so they become a source of strength that cannot easily be challenged by outside forces. Understanding your personal boundaries is also critical in strengthening confidence. When you clearly define what you will and will not tolerate, your reactions are guided by your principles rather than emotional impulses. Boundaries create structure for interactions, allowing you to respond appropriately without feeling violated or unsettled. By asserting these boundaries calmly and consistently, others learn how to engage with you respectfully, and you develop the internal reassurance that your space, both emotional and physical, is protected. Confidence grows naturally when boundaries are respected, because you know your values are non-negotiable and you honor them in every interaction. Self-reflection enhances confidence by clarifying your strengths and areas for growth. Regularly assessing your responses to others' behavior helps identify patterns of overreaction or unnecessary defensiveness. Reflection allows you to recognize that while you cannot control what others do, you can control how you respond. This understanding shifts the locus of control inward, reinforcing a mindset that is resilient to outside disturbances. Writing down reflections and tracking progress over time provides tangible evidence of growth, reinforcing the belief that you are capable of handling challenging situations with poise. Another key aspect of confidence is preparation and competence. The more skilled and knowledgeable you are in your pursuits, the less likely you are to be shaken by criticism or conflicting opinions. Competence builds self-assurance because it provides a firm foundation of ability and understanding that external judgments cannot undermine. Whether in professional or personal contexts, investing time and effort to improve your capabilities strengthens your internal sense of security. This preparation ensures that when confronted by challenging behaviors or criticism, your confidence remains steady because it is grounded in real ability and self-awareness rather than ego or superficial validation. Mindset plays a crucial role in remaining unmoved by others. Developing a growth-oriented mindset helps you view challenges, criticism, and negative behavior as opportunities rather than threats. Instead of internalizing someone else's negativity, you can observe it objectively and decide how to respond effectively. This perspective reduces emotional reactivity and reinforces confidence because your sense of self is guided by reason and reflection, not by the fluctuating opinions or actions of others. Every experience becomes a chance to practice emotional resilience and reinforce the belief that your composure is within your control. Daily habits reinforce confidence over time. Simple practices like setting small achievable goals, celebrating successes, and consistently acting in alignment with your values accumulate to strengthen self-assurance. Each time you follow through on commitments or respond to a difficult situation calmly, the mind builds trust in its own capacity to handle challenges. Over time, these repeated experiences form a resilient internal framework that supports confidence in a wide range of circumstances, including situations where others' behavior might have previously provoked stress or anger. Developing emotional independence is another essential factor. Confidence is fortified when your sense of well-being does not rely on the actions or approval of others. Emotional independence means cultivating satisfaction and contentment internally so that external praise or criticism has minimal influence on your state of mind. By nurturing hobbies, interests, and personal growth initiatives that provide fulfillment independent of others, the mind learns to remain balanced and composed in the face of disruptive behavior. This independence protects confidence because it removes the leverage that others' behavior might have over your emotions. Regularly imagining scenarios where others act in ways that might typically provoke irritation and practicing calm, confident responses trains the mind to handle real-life situations effectively. Visualization builds both mental preparedness and emotional resilience. By repeatedly rehearsing controlled, confident responses, you internalize a standard of behavior that becomes instinctive, making it easier to maintain poise and authority even in tense or unexpected interactions. Communication skills also support confidence. Speaking clearly, calmly, and assertively conveys self-assurance and discourages attempts to provoke or unsettle you. Listening attentively without immediately reacting to provocations allows the mind to gather information and respond strategically. Confident communication signals that you are grounded and in control of your emotions, which often encourages others to approach interactions more thoughtfully. Effective communication is both a reflection and a reinforcement of internal confidence. Physical presence contributes to remaining unmoved by others. Body language,
posture and controlled gestures communicate internal confidence externally. Standing or sitting with an upright posture, maintaining steady eye contact and moving deliberately strengthens both perception and internal experience of self-assurance. The body and mind are interconnected, so projecting calm, controlled energy reinforces mental confidence and helps resist being unsettled by others' behavior. Self-compassion strengthens the foundation of confidence. Accepting that mistakes or misunderstandings are part of being human prevents self-doubt from eroding inner stability. When you treat yourself with understanding and patience, you reduce the need for external validation and strengthen emotional resilience. Confidence grows when the mind is not harshly critical of itself and recognizes that maintaining composure in challenging circumstances is a skill developed over time, not an expectation of perfection. Consistency in practicing these strategies solidifies confidence. The more often you deliberately choose to remain steady when others act provocatively, the stronger the habit becomes. Each situation handled with composure reinforces the belief in your capacity to remain unaffected by external behavior. With consistent practice, reactions shift from emotional reflexes to deliberate, composed responses that preserve both peace of mind and personal integrity. Awareness of personal triggers is crucial. Understanding which behaviors, words, or situations are most likely to provoke a reaction allows proactive management. Anticipating potential stresses provides the opportunity to prepare responses in advance, reducing the likelihood of being unsettled. Knowledge of triggers, combined with strategies such as deep breathing, mental rehearsal, and self-reflection, strengthens confidence because it equips the mind with tools to remain composed under pressure. Support networks reinforce confidence by providing perspective and encouragement. Trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues can offer guidance, reassurance, and constructive feedback. Sharing challenges with individuals who respect boundaries and provide objective input helps maintain equilibrium and reduces the sense of being overwhelmed by others' behavior. Strong support systems remind you of your inner strength and help sustain consistent practice of emotional resilience. Focusing on what can be controlled enhances confidence. Many people expend energy trying to influence or predict the behavior of others, leading to frustration and anxiety. Concentrating on internal choices, personal values, and deliberate actions reinforces a sense of agency and self-assurance. The understanding that you cannot control external actions, but can control your response, reduces vulnerability to emotional disruption and strengthens stability in the face of provocation. Life inevitably presents situations where people act unpredictably or unfairly. Building mental and emotional resilience ensures that these experiences do not destabilize your composure. Resilience is cultivated through consistent self-discipline, reflective practice, and learning from experiences rather than reacting impulsively. Each instance where calm, confident response is maintained strengthens this resilience further, making future challenges more manageable. Mindfulness practice deepens awareness and reinforces confidence. By staying present and observing thoughts and feelings without judgment, the mind becomes less likely to be hijacked by emotional reactions to others' behavior. Mindfulness helps maintain clarity in stressful moments, allowing you to act in alignment with personal values rather than being swayed by external provocations. This presence of mind strengthens the ability to remain steady and unmoved. Finally, integrating these practices into daily life creates a sustained sense of confidence. Every interaction, no matter how minor, offers the opportunity to practice remaining calm and steady. Morning routines, conversations at work, family interactions, and social encounters become exercises in reinforcing composure. Over time, confidence becomes habitual, and the behavior of others loses its power to unsettle or provoke. This ongoing cultivation of internal strength and assurance ensures that emotional balance is maintained consistently, creating a life characterized by stability, clarity, and freedom from unnecessary emotional disturbance. Strengthening confidence is a gradual, deliberate process that requires attention, practice, and self-reflection. It is built on awareness, preparation, emotional independence, and consistent application in daily life. By developing this internal security, the individual becomes capable of navigating any situation without being affected by external behavior. Confidence empowers individuals to act deliberately, communicate effectively, maintain boundaries, and sustain inner peace. Over time, it transforms the way interactions are experienced, creating a life where composure, self-assurance, and emotional freedom are reliable and enduring features of existence.
Chapter 10. Build emotional discipline through consistent small daily actions. Emotional discipline is the cornerstone of personal mastery and the ability to navigate life without being controlled by fleeting impulses or external provocations. It is the skill that allows a person to remain calm, focused, and deliberate in every interaction, decision, and circumstance. This discipline is not something that develops overnight, nor does it come from a single moment of insight. It is cultivated through consistent, intentional practice over time, and the key to building it lies in small daily actions that gradually strengthen the mind's ability to regulate emotional responses. Each small step, each deliberate choice, compounds into a strong foundation of self-control and resilience that becomes an integral part of character and behavior. The first element of emotional discipline is awareness. Becoming aware of emotions as they arise provides the opportunity to choose how to respond instead of reacting automatically. Awareness involves noticing subtle changes in the body, such as tightness in the chest, heat in the face, tension in the shoulders, or shallow breathing. It also involves identifying thoughts that precede emotional reactions, including judgment, fear, or frustration. By recognizing these early signals, it becomes possible to intervene before the emotion escalates. Awareness is not passive observation. It is an active process of monitoring the internal state and understanding the connection between feelings, thoughts, and behaviors. Daily practice of checking in with your emotional state, even for brief moments, strengthens this awareness and forms the basis for consistent emotional discipline. Once awareness is established, the next step is choosing deliberate responses. Emotional discipline is not about suppressing feelings. It is about responding in a way that aligns with long-term goals and personal values. Each time an irritation or frustration arises, pausing for a moment to breathe and consider the best course of action reinforces control. Simple techniques, such as counting silently, taking slow, deep breaths, or mentally visualizing a calm outcome, create a buffer between the stimulus and the response. These small actions may seem insignificant in isolation, but repeated daily, they train the mind to default to thoughtful, measured responses rather than impulsive reactions. Consistency is critical in building emotional discipline. Daily repetition of these small actions gradually rewires the brain, strengthening neural pathways associated with self-regulation. Like any skill, discipline requires practice, and without consistent effort, progress is limited. Creating a structured routine that incorporates moments for reflection, mindfulness, or deliberate emotional exercises ensures that practice becomes habitual. Over time, the mind learns to recognize potential triggers and respond with composure automatically, even in high-pressure or expected situations. For example, starting the day with a few minutes of mindfulness, meditation, or focused breathing sets the tone for emotional regulation throughout the day. Pausing before responding to messages, emails, or conversations encourages thoughtful consideration rather than impulsive reaction. Reflecting briefly at the end of each day on situations that challenged emotional balance reinforces awareness and highlights areas for growth. Even minor acts, such as maintaining posture, controlling voice tone, and choosing words carefully in casual interactions, contribute to the cumulative development of discipline. Self-reflection enhances emotional discipline by providing insight into behavioral patterns and recurring triggers. Journaling or mentally reviewing daily interactions allows the identification of situations that provoke unnecessary emotional reactions. By analyzing these moments, the mind gains clarity on why certain events elicit strong responses and what strategies effectively maintain composure. Reflection is not about judgment or self-criticism. It is an analytical process that strengthens understanding and informs future actions. Over time, reflection cultivates the ability to anticipate challenges and apply learned strategies proactively, reducing the likelihood of impulsive reaction. Setting small, manageable goals is another powerful tool for building discipline. Instead of attempting to transform emotional control in a single day, focus on achievable objectives, such as maintaining calm during one challenging conversation, resisting a reactive thought, or pausing before speaking in a tense moment. Each successful accomplishment reinforces the mind's capacity for self-regulation and builds confidence in the ability to handle larger challenges. These incremental victories accumulate, producing measurable progress that encourages continued effort. Developing patience is integral to emotional discipline. Impulsivity is often fueled by the desire for immediate gratification or quick resolution. Learning to wait, observe, and respond after deliberate consideration strengthens the mind's control over emotional impulses. Daily exercises in patience, such as taking a moment to listen fully before responding or delaying judgment until more information is available, reinforce this skill. As patience becomes habitual, emotional reactions become more measured and strategic, reducing the impact of provocation or stress. Attention to physical wellness supports emotional discipline. The mind and body are intimately connected, and neglecting one can undermine the other. Adequate sleep, regular physical activity, and proper nutrition enhance cognitive function, focus, and emotional stability. When the body is well cared for, the mind is better equipped to handle stress and resist impulsive reactions. Incorporating physical routines that promote well-being reinforces overall discipline by providing a stable foundation for emotional regulation. Mindset is a crucial factor in sustaining emotional discipline. Viewing each day as an opportunity to practice self-control rather than expecting perfection or instant transformation encourages persistence. Challenges, conflicts, and provocations are inevitable, but they are also opportunities to exercise and strengthen discipline. Adopting a growth-oriented mindset shifts the focus from failure to learning, reducing frustration when mistakes occur and reinforcing the ongoing nature of personal development. This mindset promotes resilience, patience, and continuous improvement, all of which are essential for long-term emotional mastery. Visualization exercises support emotional discipline by preparing the mind for potential challenges. Mentally rehearsing scenarios where emotions are likely to rise and practicing calm, measured responses strengthens readiness for real-life situations. Visualization trains the brain to recognize triggers and respond effectively, reducing the likelihood of automatic impulsive reaction. Over time, repeated mental rehearsal builds confidence in one's ability to remain composed under stress and reinforces the habit of deliberate action. Accountability enhances the effectiveness of daily practice. Sharing goals with trusted individuals, mentors, or support networks creates external reinforcement for maintaining discipline. Feedback, encouragement, and objective perspectives help sustain motivation and provide insight into areas for improvement. Accountability ensures that daily efforts are not isolated exercises, but part of a structured approach to consistent growth. The presence of external support reinforces commitment and increases the likelihood of sustained practice.
Communication skills are closely tied to emotional discipline. Speaking deliberately, listening attentively, and responding with intention strengthens self-control and reduces reactive behavior. Thoughtful communication prevents misunderstandings and escalations that can trigger unnecessary emotional responses. Practicing clear, assertive, and calm communication in daily interactions reinforces the ability to maintain composure across all contexts, from casual conversations to high-stakes discussions. Self-compassion is an essential element of emotional discipline. Recognizing that mistakes are part of learning reduces self-criticism and allows for recovery without negative self-talk. Treating oneself with patience and understanding encourages persistence in practice and reinforces the belief that discipline is a skill developed over time. Self-compassion ensures that lapses in composure do not derail long-term progress and maintains motivation to continue daily practice. Integration of mindfulness into daily routines strengthens emotional regulation. By paying attention to thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations without judgment, the mind becomes less susceptible to impulsive reactions. Mindfulness exercises, even for short periods, enhance awareness, promote clarity, and provide a sense of control over responses. Practicing mindfulness regularly reinforces the neural pathways associated with deliberate, thoughtful action, creating a lasting impact on emotional discipline. Emotional independence is another crucial aspect of discipline. Relying less on external validation, approval, or recognition reduces vulnerability to stress and provocation. By cultivating fulfillment and satisfaction internally, emotional responses become less reactive to others' behavior. Daily practices that reinforce self-reliance, personal growth, and internal satisfaction support the development of a steady, disciplined emotional state. This independence strengthens resilience and contributes to long-term composure. Consistency is the key to transforming small actions into lasting habits. Emotional discipline is reinforced each time the mind chooses a deliberate response, practices patience, or reflects on behavior. Even minor efforts, repeated daily, accumulate to produce significant long-term effect. Over weeks and months, these small actions become automatic, creating a mindset where measured, thoughtful responses are the default rather than the exception. Daily reflection and assessment amplify progress. Reviewing situations where discipline was tested allows for identification of successful strategies and areas needing improvement. This process ensures that learning is continuous and that emotional regulation strategies are refined over time. By systematically analyzing daily experiences, the mind develops a deeper understanding of triggers, patterns, and effective interventions, further strengthening discipline. Finally, integrating all these practices into a consistent daily routine ensures the development of robust emotional discipline. Awareness, deliberate responses, patience, mindfulness, reflection, communication skills, physical wellness, mindset cultivation, visualization, and accountability collectively build the foundation for self-mastery. Over time, the cumulative effect of these small intentional actions transforms emotional reactivity into deliberate, controlled responses. Emotional discipline becomes a defining characteristic, allowing the individual to navigate life with calmness, clarity, and unwavering composure, regardless of external circumstance. Through this consistent, incremental approach, the mind and body learn to work together in maintaining balance, focus, and resilience. Each day provides countless opportunities to practice these skills, from minor irritations to significant challenges. By committing to daily action, emotional discipline becomes habitual, reliable, and integrated into every facet of life. The individual who cultivates this skill gains not only control over personal reactions, but also greater influence over outcomes, improved relationships, and a deep sense of internal freedom and peace. The journey to emotional discipline is continuous and cumulative. Small actions, performed consistently, compound into substantial mastery over time. By intentionally observing emotions, responding thoughtfully, practicing patience, reflecting on experiences, maintaining mindfulness, and reinforcing internal strength, the mind develops resilience against stress, provocation, and impulsive reaction. Over time, this discipline shapes character, influences behavior, and transforms daily interactions into opportunities for growth, calmness, and self-mastery, creating a life defined by stability, clarity, and purposeful emotional control.